Hello my dear friends. Well, today we're going to take a look at tablature, or tab as it's commonly known. Now, most of you out there that have been playing guitar for a long time will know what it is, but there's many of you that are new to guitar that you'll have come across it, but you're not really sure on how it works. So this lesson is it's a Wednesday lesson, so this one is for you, okay, to help you get your head around how to use tablature, because it can actually be really good. It's basically guitar music. Because guitar music, traditional guitar music, is very, very complicated, much more so than piano, for reasons that I won't bore you with right now, but it's a lot more complicated. So some bright spark developed a means of being able to write stuff down without the need to spend years and years studying music theory. All right. In fact, I don't know any guitar players in my long career as a player. I've never met a guitarist yet that can actually read it. I really haven't, you know. In fact, I've spent months trying to get somebody to transpose a classical piece that I've written for a new album into proper guitar music, and I can't find one, you know. So there we are. So anyway, tablature, what is it? Okay, so it's gonna be fun, this lesson. Before we go any further, I want you to download your free paperwork, okay? Paperwork here. I'm also including in the download 2 PDFs, so you can actually, you won't really find, it's hard to find this stuff on the internet, but you're going to find one, a blank one with two bars on each one, you know, as in, you know, little riffs that you can do over 2 bars. And then I've put together this one for you over 4 bars. You know, and so as we get into the lesson, you understand. And what makes it quite unique is it's actually got beats at the bottom, so it's very easy to follow. As I say, I had to make these up myself because you can't really find them. You know, it assumes that you would know what the timings are, which of course, why would you if you're just starting off learning how to play? Okay, so I want you to download your tab. While you're doing that, I want to thank you very much for the donations to my little channel, Fender Rob channel. If you want to donate to the Tea and Coffee Fund, then there's a thanks button at the bottom. Or better still, join my Patreon platform, because that really helps to keep all this free stuff going. So thank you for that. Or just thumbs up it if you're skint. Just give us a thumbs up, that'll be enough. All right? So, tab or tablature, what is it? Right, well, have a look at this. Now you'll see that there are, see these 6 lines that are going across here. Now many people, you know, new to guitar playing, they will have seen tab in books like this, you know, and they immediately assume that it's got something to do with having to read music. Well, it hasn't. You know, the lines here, which is the tablature, it means something completely different to the stave, the music that you would see traditionally, okay, here. So this in effect is tablature of that, that particular piece. Just to give you a little blast, is it's Lagrima. You know, you can use tab for lots of things, not just rock solos, but you can use it for everything. It has its limitations. Timings, telling you the timings is one thing. Now the other thing that I want you to have a look at is I've also included this. This is something that you will see whenever you're looking at tablature. It's got the, you know, little notations of when you bend things and slide and that sort of stuff. Now most of us have been playing for a long time. We don't need this. We can hear what's going on, but you may need it if you're looking at it. So I'm going to include that in the download pack. All right, so you'll see that there. It's all free, by the way, so you don't pay for anything. All I ask you to do is to give us that thumbs up or buy us a cup of tea or something. That'll be enough. All right, so I'm going to have a little play game with you. This is a generic riff which you will have heard me talking about, okay? And from it, I'm going to play these here, and I'm going to explain that everyone is a little bit more complicated, but these are tunes that you will know. Okay, now I've not put the titles on, you can scribble them on after the lesson, but I just want you to see the enjoyment on your faces when you realise what it is you're actually playing. So the first thing we're going to look at, you'll see on, if you've got, you're looking at it now, it's very important that you look at it while we're doing it. You will see that you've got your string numbers from E to E. Okay, this is important so you know what these are. So these lines represent the strings of your guitar. Okay, from E, which is your bass string here, A, D, G, B, E. So from the thick string, the E string, to the thin E string. I know I sound naive, but there we go. It's the easiest way to do it, isn't it? All right, and anything you see on these particular lines or particular strings, you will do. For example, you're going to see, if we got here, a 0 and a 2 on the E string. Now the numbers represent the fret numbers, okay, the fret numbers, 0, 2. So on this E string, you would play an open string because it's a 0, and then you would play a 2. Then you would go down to your 5th string or your A string, and it's telling you to play the A string at the 2nd fret and then the 4th, and you just follow the line, not like those old dotted up puzzles you get when you're a kid. So that's what you would do. And underneath it here, and this is the unique bit, and this is why I wanted you to have it, I've put the timings for you. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 bar, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 bars. That's why I referred to it before as 2-bar tab. And of course you've got the same here and the same here, okay? So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So if we look at that now and try and play what's written down, we'll see, well, it says an E string open, so with a 0, so I can do that. Then we've got an E string at the 4th fret, I can do that. 5th string, an A string at the 2nd fret, and then an A string at the 4th fret. And that's our first bar. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay. Then if we look at the next bar, you'll see that it's asking us to play the 4th string or the D string open, all right, on beat 1 of the 2nd bar. Then we go back to the 5th string at the 4th fret for beat 2. Then the 5th string at fret 2, because it says 2. And then finally, on beat 4 of the 2nd bar, we see the bass string at the 4th fret again. So if we put that together, we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... And those of you who've been following my channel will know that that is the mother of all riffs. Now, if you want to go and see the full mother of all riffs thing, go and look for it. It was a popular video, did it, I don't know, 6 months ago. Go and have a look for it. But that's what that is. Again, I'll just go over it one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... All right, there it is. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and this will give you the rhythm of the piece. Now if you look below it, you'll see similar, but there's a lot more going on. Now this is the first little tune that you should know. It's basically because the mother of all riffs, why I called it that, is because lots of other riffs, famous ones, are spawned from it. Spawn, that's a good word, I haven't used that for a while. So let's have a look at this second one. We've got something happening on every single beat and half beat. Half beat is an and. So we've got a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So what's this one going? Let's have a look. So we got 2 open strings on the E, on the 1 and the and. Then on beat 2 we're at the 4th fret again because it says 4. And then we've got an A string at the 2nd fret because there's a 2 on the A string. And then the next note along, it's a D string open, and which is the 4th string, D string at the 4th fret, back to the D string at the 2nd fret, and then an open D string to finish that bar. Good news is the 2nd bar is exactly the same as the 1st bar. So if we can learn the 1st bar and we just do it twice, we're done. Let's have a look at it again slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, I was giving you the counting the beats out there. Can you recognise the tune? Pretty woman. Of course, Pretty Woman. We can write that down now on the top. I didn't want to tell you what it was. I want you to find out for yourself. Okay, let's look at the next one. Now, the next one, you'll see one of the problems with tablature, it doesn't really give you the timing. If you look at, let's go back to this one. Real music tells you how long the notes last and where they play, you know, and the note length and all that. Tab doesn't really do that. It relies heavily on what we can hear. Now, you can do a grid like I've done, which will help you, as I'm going to demonstrate now. Because if you look at the third one along, again, it's going to be a very famous riff that you will all know, but you'll notice that it's broken up in places, okay? Now, if you didn't have the beats here, you would have to instinctively know by listening to the thing all the time where those particular beats come in. Now, beginners find that difficult to do, okay? You know, you've got to learn how to listen, you see. But in the meantime, if it's got a grid underneath it, this one is, you know, it'll help you, and then you can say, I've got it now. Okay, so let's have a look at the third one down. We've got an open E string. We know this, and this is again all based around the same sort of riff. So we've got, and then there's nothing on the and two. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Okay, and then on the and after the 2, we've got a 3rd fret on the bass string, and then on beat 3, we've got a bass string at the 4th fret. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. Then we go down to the 5th string where we will play an A string at the 2nd fret because it's got a 2 there on the and after the 3, and then on beat 4 we've got another 2. So when we've got 2 2s like that, one after the other, usually means that you can put one finger across the same fret because you're jumping from that string to that one, rather than do this. Just, you know, eventually you'll realize that when you see things like that, you know, one after the other. Okay, and then finally at the end of that bar we've got an open 4th string. So we've got this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now you should start to recognize the tune now. Okay, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. All right, you know what it is now. So in the second bar we've got a silent 1 and, or it's still ringing out from the previous one. Let me do the first one again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that second bar was 1 and 5th string at the 2nd fret. On the and after the 2, you've got a 4th string at the 4th fret. Nothing on beat 3. Okay, on the and after beat 3, you've got a 2 again on the 5th string. Beat 4, open, and then the and after the 4 with on the 4th string, we're back at the 2nd fret. You'll know what it is. I'll try and count it through. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so by playing those numbers, those string numbers directly above whatever beat it is, then that will automatically give you the timing. Now eventually you're going to have to start using your ears. You know, this is to give you an idea of how to do it. All right, so you can write on top of that one, Day Tripper, of course, the Beatles. Now, go to the next one down, you're thinking, a little bit more complicated. What's going on here? All right, no need to panic, however. All right, you know, don't worry about what fingers to use just yet. We'll worry about that later. All right, let's have a look at that one. So we've got, it's out a little bit outside our comfort zone. We've got a 4 and a 5. Now the numbers are falling on top of one another. So what does that mean? Have another look. See there, 4 and 5. Well, when you see them stacked up like that, one on top of the other, it means you're going to play those notes, those strings, those things together. So we've got an A string at fret 5. So I'm going to use my middle fingers for this. I sort of know what I'm going to play. So I'm going to put my 3rd finger on fret 5 on the A string, and then underneath that, it's got a D string at fret 4, like this. I could do that, but I know that I'm going to be going down here in a minute, so I'm keeping this finger free to do stuff with, all right? You'll see why in a minute. So we've got a 5 and a 4 played together. So with my plec, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to play those two notes together. I could, if I wanted to, if I wasn't used to playing a pleck, I could do it with my fingers. But I'm going to use a pleck because it's a plecky piece, all right? This piece in particular is usually played on two guitars. We're going to do it in one because we're clever, all right? So we've got 1 and 2 and there's another one of those on the and after the 2. I'll do it again. 1 and 2 and then on beat 3, those two fingers will move down because this one's now at fret 5 and this one's at fret 4. So put those bits together. Again, you should start getting the head around the tune. 1 and 2 and 3. Now I'm going to leave this finger where it is because the next note on the G string, the third string, is a 4, and this one here I'm going to put now, this is why I saved it, on the second string at the 3rd fret because there's a 3 there. So I've got this 1 and 2 and 3 and, okay, 1 and 2 and 3 and then there's nothing on beat 4, but there's 2 2s on the G and the B. So I'm going to use one finger, as I described before, and I'm going to put it across the 2nd fret, both on the 3rd string and the 2nd string. And I'm going to play those two strings together. All right. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then next bar 1 and 2. There's nothing on that. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Then I'm going to put my 3rd finger. You'll see why I'm using my 3rd finger in a minute. On the 2nd fret, 4th string, the D string, and I'm going to play the 4th string with the 3rd string open. How do I know that the 3rd string is open? Because it's got a 0, okay? And then I'm going to bring this finger up to the 5th fret because it tells me that the next note I'm going to play is a 5, a 5th fret on the 4th string. And I'm going to drop this finger back on the 3rd string because it tells me that there's a 4 being played at the same time on that string. And then finally, I'm going to play the 4th string at the 4th fret by moving this finger to my left to the 4th fret, and I'm going to replace my 3rd finger with my 1st finger on the 3rd string at the 2nd fret for the final part of the riff. Now you should know what it is now. I'll say it slowly with the beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Of course you know what it is. All right, get the idea? So that's page 1 of how tab works. Now let's look at page 2. And you'll say, oh God. Now you're going to know what's on here without knowing that you know what's on here. All right. Let me just show you. Hold on. A couple of bits and pieces here. This is important because you're going to see things like this. So when you see them all stacked up like that, it usually means that it's a chord. All right. Now look at the first one on page 2. I've written the chord name at the top. It's a G. And you'll see that on beat 1, we've got a 3, a 2, 3 zeros and a 3. Now I'll play my G like most of you will do. You've got your 3 there, your 2 will be there, and you've got a 3 right the way down there. So when you become familiar with tablature, when you see that, you'll know that's G. You'll immediately know it. You won't now if you're just starting off. Okay. Now I tend to play my G like this, and I've shown you the way you will do it, but I'm going to do it like this because I always like to keep this finger free to do stuff with. All right. So on beat 1, they're all stacked up, so it's okay. 1 and 2 and there's nothing in between the 1 and 2 and, so I'm just going to let it ring. 1 and 2 and then on the next chord, the E minor, I've got 2 2s, 1 on the 5th string, so I'm going to leave that there, and 1 on the 4th string, and it tells me the name of the chord, and it's telling me to hit an open E, 2, a 2, and then 3 open strings below those, which is of course an E minor. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I'm looking at the next chord, which I know is an A minor. Now there's a little cross over this, so it's telling me not to hit that string or mute it, okay, which I always do with an A minor, as you will all know. And then I've got an open 5th string, 4 and 3 are at fret 2. I know that because there's 2s written on those particular strings. I've got a 1 on the B string, the second string, which is my first finger, and I've got an open first string. So I know that as A minor. And again, eventually you'll come to see these and recognize one when you see them. So 1 and 2 and then finally we've got 2 crosses on the 6th string and the 5th, and we've got an open 4th string or open D string. We've got our 3rd string at the 2nd fret because there's a 2 there. The second string has got a 1, so it's at the 1st fret, and again we've got another 2 on the 1st string. Well, we should know that as D7th. Now there's a cross over the A string because, you know, D string's a 4-string chord, but really we all play the A string over it, so don't worry too much about that. Never though play an open 6th string with it because it sounds crap. All right, simple as that. So we've got this on this first row: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and if we wanted to strum that, we could go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And do you notice that on the and before every change, I always bring my fingers off, and every other guitar player does without knowing it. What does that mean? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Of course, when you're playing, you don't notice it, do you? But if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be able to get from one chord to another fast enough, and it would sound, well, crap. Let's have a look at the next one. So we've got other examples of chords. This time, the little arrows underneath here are telling you which way I would like your pleck to go. In this instance, nice simple one: down, up, down, up, down, up. We know that because the arrows are doing down, up, down, up, down, up. Obviously. Okay, we've got our beats here and that, and we're going to play 4 different chords now. We're going to play a C. How do we know it's a C? Well, if we work it out from the bass. Now, I always like to play my C with a finger on this string. I just think it sounds better, enables you to hit that string. So we've got a 3, another 3, the D string with a 2, an open 3rd, second string at the 1st fret, and then. Now you can, of course, if you don't like the big full C, you can do it like that, but you must mute the bass string. Okay. I've done it like this because I like to do picking, and we always bounce to that string. So in this instance, we've got a C, 1 and 2, and then we've got an A minor. Now we've already played an A minor, so we should know what that is. 3 and 4 and fingers off. The next one is a D minor, 4th string open, 3rd string at the 2nd fret. Where are we? 2nd string at the 3rd fret, and 1st string at the 1st fret. And then the final chord's a G7th. Bass string at the 3rd, 5th string at the 2nd, open strings all the way down until you're here. Now when I tell you to bring fingers off, if you've got certain fingers that are common to both chords, you can leave them on. For example, my C to A minor, this finger, even this one really can stay on, but I tend to bring this one off because it's awkward to leave it on. But this one I always keep on. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and D minor. I'm going to keep this finger on after the D minor. 1 and 2 and then I'll come off to start it again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now you'll have heard that progression lots of times, all right? So that's how you look at chords, all right, when you see tablature. Now, going down below that, a little bit more advanced, but nothing overly complicated. It's with, picking. And I've given you, a riff here that you will all know was a massive, massive hit. So based on what we already know, we should be able to start working these things out. We've got a finger here on 1, and we've got a finger on 3. Now, you could play it like that, but we should think, well, hang on, it's a C, isn't it? So we'll put that on, but we'll only play the 1 and the 3, okay? And then we know we've got. You'll say, why is that finger on? Well, if you look at the next bit, you'll see that we've got a 4th string at the 2nd fret and a first string that's open. So it's C, but it's sort of broken up, you know. So, all right. Then we've got a G with a B. So we're going to play a G with a B like this, okay? This finger here and this one here. Now we know what it is because the tab's telling us. You know, even if we didn't recognize it by the name of the chord, it's telling us to play the 5th string at the 2nd fret and the 2nd string at the 3rd fret. And we're going to play, and this is on beat 3, then and, 4, and, they're all open. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You start to realize what it is. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then we look at the next, like a bit of an A minor 7th. It's a broken chord. 1 finger. We're playing a 5 and a 2. We know the 2 is at the 1 because there's a 1 on it. 1 and 2 and then I'm coming off for the and after the 2 where it says G. I'll do that again. 1 and 2 and then I'm going to put my finger on the bass string at the 3rd fret because there's a 3 and 3, an open 3rd because there's a 0 over the and after the 3, and then finally a 4 and a 1 as in 4th string and 1st string. The 1 is at the 3rd fret, so you know, because it's part of G. Well, that in itself is a whole song, believe it or not. But slow down. Okay, get the idea? And if you want to learn a little bit more about the picking, we can look at that. This is just to show you how tab works. And again, finally, we've got our generic Travis picking thing. And again, it's telling you the name of the chord at the top, so you'll know it's a C. And I want you to play your C like this in this instance, because, well, you'll see in a second. We've got a 3 on the 5th string, and then on the and after that, we've got a 2nd string at the 1st. And then we've got a on beat 2, we've got a D string at the 2nd. All these will be in place now because you know what C is. And then an open 3rd. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. Now those people who have followed my Travis picking lesson will know that I do mine in an idiot-proof way where I actually show the shapes, which is quite unique to my channel. This is how you'd normally see it, which is a little bit more complicated, but it's worth knowing because a lot of it's written, unless you come to me, it's written like this. So, okay, so we've got, again, I'll just give you the string numbers, 5, 2, 4, 3. I'll give you the count now. He's not going to sell much ice cream going that fast. Anyway. 1 and 2 and then on beat 3, we're going to play our E string at the 3rd fret. We know it's at the 3rd fret because there's a 3 there. Back to the 2nd string at the 1st because there's a 1, and then back to the 4th string where the 2 is, and then an open 3rd. So if you just plonked your C on there and just followed the line like a dot-to-dot puzzle, I'll give you the string numbers now. 5, 2, 4, 3, 6, 2, 4, 3. It's like the boxer, isn't it? So that's bar 1. And then I'm going to go to an A minor, and again on that open 3rd string, I'm going to use that on the and after the 4 as my vehicle to be moving what fingers I need to. I'm going to leave this one here, I did it before. I'm on A minor, telling me it's an A minor. And I'm going to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, I'll give you the string numbers first. 5, 2, 4, 3, 6, 2, 4, 3. And you'll notice on those strings that we've got an open 5th, a 2nd string at the 1st, a 4th string at the 2nd, a 3rd string at the 2nd, and then your bass string up here open, and then a 2nd string up the 1st fret, 4th string at the 2nd, 3rd string open. And if you put a little bit of pace to it, and I'll give you the count now, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And when you've got the hang of that, you can do maybe 2 bars on the C and then 2 bars on the A minor like this. And just practice 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Okay, so we've got that's in a nutshell how it works, you know. Now clearly when you go into lead guitar, I mean, you know, you can do all sorts of lead guitar solos, and normally there's things like pre-bends, or what's a pre-bend, for example? Well, a pre-bend is when you sort of, you bend the string and you'll come down to it, and then you'll see little symbols like little waves that indicating vibrato. It's all self-explanatory on here, so that's going to be down there with this. Okay, so you can see, so if you're looking at sort of you know, guitar tab in general, then this will, you know, this could probably help. So I'll put that in there with it. All right. So, and also you've got your, I'm including in as PDFs your blank, you know, your blank 2-bar tab as I did before, and there's a 4-bar one here. So, and this is so you can fiddle around trying to write things yourself, because a lot of people, you know, you're in a band and you got a mate and you say, and he says, what's my part? And can you write it down? Well, yeah, you can put it on here for him. All right, so you can have that as well. So there we are. We've got, you know, how tab works. I mean, learning guitar music, forget it. No, as I said, I've not met anyone that I know that can read guitar music. Not one person. Classical players tend to do it, because the only thing classical guitar players ever learn is classical guitar. Very rare that you find a classical guitar player that can turn his hand to other styles, and there's a good reason for that, because it's bloody hard to play classical guitar. And if you want to be a good player, or you want to play, you know, professionally as a classical player, you do not have time to learn all these other, you know, rock and roll things, which are dead easy by comparison. All this stuff about who's the greatest guitar player, and it's always some electric guitar. It's not. I'm telling you now, it's not. That is like nothing compared to playing classical guitar. It really isn't, you know. And anyone that's had a go at classical guitar will tell you that. All right, that's why I'm telling you, it's hard, very hard. Anyway, there we are. Tablature. I hope you've enjoyed that lesson. Any questions, please get in touch with me. If you're interested in any private tuition, you can always get hold of me. What's my email? I can't remember now. I think it's Fenner Rob or something. Oh, I don't know. But you know how to get in touch with me if you want to do something private. I'm going to be putting a little note out soon, because I've got a 4 or 5 spaces that I'm going to fill. Mainly, I want to try and fill them with some of the overseas students. All right. So if I've only got about 5, so if you're up for it, give us a shout. Thanks again for the donations to the channel. It's very welcome, very much appreciated. Or join my Patreon platform. I'm editing together some studio stuff I've been working on for the last 4 or 5 weeks, so that'll be coming to you very, very soon. All right, so Patreon, link below if you're interested in that. And I've also put the link for what was it, to Apache, you know, by the Shadows, which is tablature. So if you wanna give it a go and have a go at that tutorial, it's there for you as well. All right, until then, I'll see you soon. Bye bye.